Hi there guys, and welcome to today's live stream. It is the 22nd of April and today we're going to be talking about neck pain in particular. Thanks for tuning in, and again, if you've got any questions on today's topic, if you've been working hard at home, getting a little bit of neck trouble, need a little bit of advice or guidance on that, then do please add those comments in the description. Lara's the other side of these computers in the setup, so she can see all your comments and she'll be able to put those questions to me at the end of the main sort of topic. So today, let's get straight into it. Today we're going to be talking about how you can avoid neck pain. Now, we've been looking through social media and there's been a lot of stuff talking about getting skilled up. Maybe it's learning a new course, learning internet marketing, skilling up for your job, reading books, etc., to just use this time in a productive manner whilst you're either furloughed or working from home or whatever it may be. And that's an awesome use of your time. It's fantastic. But if you're not aware of certain things, then you might start to give yourself a little bit of trouble in the neck. So we wanted to really cover what are going to be the triggers for neck pain so you can sort of understand them. And the same as we covered to a certain degree yesterday with back pain, neck pain, the structures are very, very similar. We've got a big head on a very, very small spinal column. And the triggers are very, very similar, and generally it's going to build up over a longer period of time. It's less likely that you're going to do a one-off event that's going to actually give you that neck pain straight away. It's more likely to be accumulation of these bad habits. So we want to know what are those triggers first and foremost, and why they're triggers, what they're actually doing to trigger the neck pain. How are they putting stress on certain structures repeatedly to lead to that neck pain in the first place? And if you understand those two concepts, then at least you'll be able to avoid certain things. And then what can we do to avoid this? So we'll give you some guidance as well. Talk about little tactics that you can employ at home to really avoid any neck pain becoming an issue. And then finally, we want these live streams to be as helpful as possible for you guys. So we'll cover a few little tips and tricks you can do. And by the end of it, you'll really understand why the tips work, because they're opposing some of the things that you're doing over the course of the day that's built up the back pain, or the neck pain, sorry, in the first place. So if we jump back to me and start off by what is actually triggering neck pain. So there's lots of activities. We've got the spine, I'll bring that up in a second. But a lot of it is going to be flexion or bad posture, putting extra compression through that cervical spine for an extended period of time. And that might be reading a book, lying on the bed in that sort of position, which is probably the least common of all, but that's going to compress the base of the skull here, possibly to things like headaches where we've got pain over the top of the head or pain behind the eyes, because we're putting an extreme extension through the neck. But the more common variations are going to be on the bed again, maybe sat with the book on your chest, looking down, putting a sustained stretch through those ligaments on the back, through the muscles on the back, and a good degree of compression through the discs on the front. So that's one example. Another one might be just sitting in the sofa. You've got the TV off in the room and you've reclined the chair a little bit, and we're coming back like so, and we're in this sort of position watching the TV for a long period. And if you look at me from the side, we've got a lot of flexion going on through here. It's not a very biomechanically effective position to be in, and definitely not for long periods of time. So those are going to be the main ones. And then if you couple that with a little bit of exercise, when we put a bit more stress through this region, maybe doing some shoulder exercises to try and sort of get the blood pumping, that can just aggravate things a little bit more and lead to problems. And then the last one would be sitting in front of the computer. Maybe you're doing some computer studying. Maybe you're learning, like we are, how to do these live streams by using bits of software, and it takes a bit of time watching videos, etc., to try and understand and get your head around what's going on, and that leads you to start to climb into the computer, which is obviously not very good for your neck as well. But all of these things have the same sort of thing in common, apart from the first one, which I'll touch last of all, is that we're taking this neck, now your head sits kind of here, here's where the face would be, back of the head just here, and what we've got is we should have this nice smooth curve in the neck, and this allows it to absorb shock like a spring. This is maintained by various ligaments that are in and around the neck here, and those support the natural curve. We've also got muscles that provide stability to this section as well, and all of those need to work together, moving forwards, backwards, left, right, etc., and changing the pressure and tension on those various structures to allow them to function effectively. Now, when we're sat in one position for an extended period, maybe we're sat on that sofa like I mentioned earlier, or on the bed reading, we're flexing that neck quite a bit, and now the neck curve is really diminished quite a bit, and you can see from the side the gaps between these vertebrae increase as well, and that means there's going to be a passive stretch on those ligaments. Now, we've mentioned before with reference to the lower back, in the clinic we do spinal remodeling, and that's where you can objectively, by about 25%, change a person's alignment in their neck curve in a period of 3 to 4 months by just doing something for 20 minutes a day. It's very, very malleable if we're doing the right things, but doing the wrong things, sitting in that sort of position for extended periods of time, is going to have a remodeling effect on the ligaments that maintain the normal cervical curve. So we don't want to be in those positions for long periods, but a lot of those postures tend to be comfortable. Maybe you're watching a film on TV that's going to be 2 hours long and you're in that position when you don't have much else to do, so maybe you're watching a number of films, or maybe you're following on with a box set, and we're doing that every single day. It's going to start to build up a stretch, a permanent stretch through these ligaments on the back here, and at the same time we're going to start to irritate these nerves, the discs on the front here in the cervical spine, and that can start to lead to a bit of stiffness, bit of discomfort first thing in the morning, maybe even a little bit of a trapped nerve as you're turning the head in the morning, and that will slowly build up over a period of time, mainly because we're talking about challenging structures which don't have the best blood supply, or the most penetrating blood supply. They've got a lower blood supply relative to other structures, say the surface of your skin or muscles. So if there's an issue with them, the symptoms will build up over a longer period of time compared to if you actually pull a muscle, which is going to be instant, or if you cut your skin, you instantly will see the reaction in your body to it very, very quickly. So the problem with a lot of the activities we're doing is we're putting stress on the ligament type structures, and those mean that you're not going to get that pain feedback at the time of doing it. You'll just get a bit uncomfortable and want to move position. But if you get used to sitting in those positions for long periods of time, hours on end, then it starts to become a problem. Now, the one we mentioned earlier that doesn't fit this mold is lying on your tummy looking at a book, and that's kind of going to have you in this position here. Now, there are, I would say, out of all of the positions you could be in, this is probably going to be the best one for a number of reasons. Generally, it's not very comfortable to rest on your arms, so you're going to move a little bit more in this position, and it is actually doing something to maintain the normal curve. And for someone with a normal neck curve, this probably won't be that much of a difficult position, so I highly doubt that's going to lead to neck pain. It can do, yes, but it's much less common than the other examples that I've mentioned, because they're just so much more comfortable to sit in those positions. So that's pretty much why things are triggering neck pain. It's a sustained reduction in the cervical curve, putting stress on the soft tissues in that region, and also putting a stretch through those muscles. And muscles don't like to be held in an elongated position for extended periods of time. They start to get uncomfortable. Now, the next reason that it'll be triggered and get worse is if you react to that initial stiffness in an inappropriate manner. So if you start to get the stiffness, if you go the right way, which we'll cover at the end of the video, and do the right things, then you're going to be fine. It'll go very quickly. But if you go and do the wrong things for a couple of days, it's like scratching yourself after you've been stung by stinging nettles. It is a bad idea. It's going to make things worse. So the common one that people do will be that, oh, I'm going to stretch those muscles out even more, and we'll squash those discs nicely while we're doing it, because I haven't had enough of this all day, been sat watching Netflix for 4 hours. So doing that and stretching out like so, and hammering these guys here, these muscles that are overstretched already, is a fantastic way to make the problem really get worse rather quickly, unless you're one of those people that have been doing the lying on your tummy thing, because then the muscles will actually have been shortened, objectively speaking, and they might be a little bit crampy, kind of like squeezing your arm like that for a long period of time. The biceps are going to get a little bit uncomfortable after a while. So most people will not need to do more of that stretching, and pay attention. You're getting stiffness across here because you've been sat in front of the TV for a long period of time, or sat studying, watching some educational videos on the phone like this for long periods. Pay attention. Do we need to stretch those muscles more? Have I been stretching them already all day? And if the answer is yes, we're going to go and do the exercises that we touch on at the end of the video. So that's pretty much what you can do. If you avoid those extended periods now, this is where we're getting into what can you actually avoid what can you do to avoid the neck pain building up in the first place? If you're going to study, set up a desk that's some sort of arrangement that's actually good for you. There's some element of ergonomics there. And that means having the screen reasonably in your face, having a chair that's upright, and do your work at the computer at something like a desk, maybe it's the kitchen table. Prop the screen up a little bit if you need to. If you're going to do work on the phone, do it in a position where you can kind of rest on your hands and have your phone up here, where your elbows resting maybe on the table. Move positions regularly. That's a really helpful one. And if we are doing study on the phone, you can get up and walk around. Move around the house a little bit. Be in an upright position. Change positions. As long as you don't stay in one position and holding a static stretch through the ligaments in particular we're talking about, and through the discs in the neck, for longer than 10 or 15 minutes, if you're moving every sort of 5-10 minutes or so, you're actually not going to do any sort of long-term trouble, and you'll really help keep these neck symptoms at bay. So moving regularly is a really, really big way to just avoid the neck pain, avoid the trouble in your neck at all. So that's the biggest bit of advice. Under that 10-minute mark, and no ligament change really will take place at all in those structures. And you can sit like that for 5 minutes, not a problem at all. But just move more. That will be the biggest thing you can do for you. And it's kind of the advice for everything, from a point of view of our cardiovascular health, from a point of view of our backs, from a point of view of our necks. If we can just move more during lockdown, we're going to be a hell of a lot more healthy in the short term, medium term, and long term, and have a lot less pain in all areas. So do bear that in mind. It's such a simple solution, but it really does work. Now, if you are in a position where you're stuck and you're starting to get some neck pain, there's a few tips for you. And we've covered them briefly in videos before, but I'll go through them on the spine quickly now. We want to try and, first of all, take that spine back to a normal position so that the head is facing forwards. And a person with this nice curve in the neck, would not be looking at the ceiling. They'd be looking straight ahead because the curve is normal. It's supposed to be like that. And that takes stress off the ligaments and off the back of the discs. If you get pain when you do this, just bringing your head back up to a normal position, there's a good chance you've already got a bit of inflammation here. And that's, I won't go down that rabbit hole on today's video, maybe another time, but that's because you've been like this for so long. There's inflammation blocking up these holes, and when you do that and bring the holes back to a normal size, it creates just too much pressure in that region. So we'll get into that in another video, but the first thing we want to do is bring that head up to a good position. And in order to do that, we've got our famous bands. Nice strong band. This one's probably not strong enough, so I'll double it up. Place this middle portion of the neck, and we're just going to pull straight through and look up gently. Okay, nice and easy. And you should go through 10 or 15 reps of this. Just straight through, and then if we turn from the side, show you guys holding onto the band and just looking up. We could go a lot further, but you don't do that when you're doing this exercise. Because if we go like that, we're going to jam up the top of the neck, and it's just a little bit too extreme. We're looking to do a gentle, safe mobilization of the neck in towards the right direction so it restores some of the curve in your neck. You do about 10-15 reps of this, nice and easy. You can work your way up and down the neck as you're doing it, but don't complicate it. Go straight through the middle portion of your neck, pull straight forwards gently. We're not trying to saw the neck in half, and look up, and you're going to feel those vertebrae in the neck move gently. Next one is getting the rolled up towel. I've actually got a protein shaker here because this is not a rolled up towel, but this is about the size that you want to roll that towel up, and then place it in the nape of the neck, and that again restores that neck curve. Place right under there, it restores the neck curve well, and that way you're going to take pressure off those discs. When we restore the curve, exactly the same as we've mentioned in detail on the lower back towel exercise, it creates a traction effect through all of the discs and takes pressure off these cervical discs, unloads the muscles, unloads the ligaments. It's a fantastic exercise. So you've done your 10 or 15 reps of the cervical with the band, looking back up, and you jump straight on that towel for 3 to 5 minutes. And then when you finish, if you're getting neck pain at the moment, you've got a little bit of a trapped nerve, get a bit of ice on the neck, slap bang in the middle of the neck for 3 to 5 minutes at a time, upright. Place the ice pack on your neck, and just use a band or a towel to just walk around the house holding it in place, because that way we can keep a good neck posture. It's absolutely no good if you get your ice pack after you've done these fantastic exercises, which are super easy by the way, and place it on your neck like that and walk around the house like that for 5 minutes, because we're just doing exactly the opposite of what we wanted to do in the first place. So do please bear that in mind. Sometimes one of the mistakes that people make is they do something really good. They do a fantastic bit of exercise or rehab or stretching to the letter. It's perfect. And then all that knowledge just goes out the window when they're not doing the exercises. So try your best to think about those little things after the exercise that reinforce what you've done so that it's not time wasted. So that's pretty much it for today's sort of topic on how to avoid neck pain. I'll run through it one more time for you guys in review. First and foremost, triggers. The main triggers, aside from that one where you're on your front reading in bed perhaps, or on the bed, is going to be sat down, chin to your chest, excessive long-term flexions through the neck that reduce the neck curve, essentially looking down, and this happening here where we flatten out that neck curve for extended periods. That's the most at risk, maybe while you're studying, while you're reading, while you're watching TV. The next one is the reason it's triggering pain is because it's putting a sustained, consistent stretch through those ligaments. It's stretching the muscles for long periods, and it's compressing and irritating the discs or the anterior column, the front of your vertebral unit. This part on the front here, as opposed to the back here. What can you do to avoid this? You can take regular movements, move around a little bit more in the house. Try and move. Don't just camp out for long periods. The way in which TV used to be, where there'd be an advertising break every 15 minutes, was fantastic. So it would trigger you to get up and get some coffee or some tea instead of watching the adverts, which probably isn't good for the advertising companies, but there we go. And then what can you do to relieve the pain? We can do that band exercise. Go back and rewind the video if you want to watch a replay of that. 10 to 15 reps. And then jumping straight on the towel for 3 to 5 minutes around about that big a towel in the nape of the neck, so we've got a nice neck curve, and then using the ice after for 3 to 5 minutes. And that is pretty much it. Thanks for tuning in. Let's go to the Q&A.
Okay, great. Really good question from Ollie. He said, is it good to use those grippy things? He's talking pop sockets on your phone.
Oh yeah, these ones. They're awesome. You could just hold your phone out. I mean, you could probably get those. They're probably not being bulk bought like toilet paper right now. So you can get those off Amazon. They're super cheap. We used to give them away free to patients. They're also really good because you can just stick your phone on the side there and it sits on it. So you can watch your phone on the table. Quite handy. But yeah, pop sockets are awesome, especially if you're someone that's prone to getting neck pain or using your phone regularly for business or pleasure or social media. So I definitely recommend those. They are fantastic.
Okay, awesome. And we've got another question. Are these exercises appropriate even when the pain feels more muscular, e.g. pain and stiffness on the side of the neck?
Yeah, so that's basically what we were discussing. The pain will be muscular invariably if you're in those sorts of positions, you're like that, or maybe because a lot of people aren't aware. One very interesting thing our body does is it always tries to get the eyes on horizontal. So if we've got any tilts through the spine, a lot of people aren't aware they've got these little twists through their spine, and it's only when you look at a selfie that someone else has taken with you off guard you realise there's this little kink through the spine. I've got a little bit of a kink here from an old rugby injury, so my spine actually kind of goes a bit to the side and then a bit to the middle here. So there's always that issue that one side is likely, if it's going to get a bit grumpy, it's always going to be one side more than the other. So if you're feeling it on these muscles on the side, and you're trying to stretch them even more, there's a very good chance if you're doing any of the things that I mentioned that stretching is going to be problematic, and actually we need to take pressure off that muscle. Muscles will be tight and sore if they are stretched excessively or if they are in a position of contraction and spasm. And the only way you can deduce which one is which is not by feeling the sensation, it's by going back in an investigative manner and exploring what have I done to stress this muscle. And it's very likely, if you take a look at your day, you've probably been on the phone too long, you've probably been in those sorts of positions that I've mentioned, stretching that muscle for too long. And the only way you're going to figure that out is if you go back and look at what you've been doing. And then you need to take the answer of saying, well, I've been stretching it for too long, do these exercises instead. And I would encourage you, the overwhelming majority of people will default to doing that sort of thing. And I would suggest you do it 3 times a day, 3 or 4 days, and cut out all the other things that I've mentioned and see if it doesn't get better. Also use the ice on the middle of the neck and try it consistently for 2 or 3 days, because if you have been doing these bad things for the last 4 weeks on lockdown, it's going to take a little bit of the right thing consistently to make an impact, unless you can get treatment, and people can't get treatment right now.
Another question from Karen. Why does it feel so comfortable to sit with bad posture? It's hard to sit well all the time. It's true.
That's because we've got used to it, same as everything. So if a great exercise for you to do at home if you're living with someone else is look at how your other half, your friend, your brother, your sister, whoever it is, mum, dad, sits in their postures and copy them to the letter and see how uncomfortable you are within 5 minutes. We all have our own comfortable bad postures because that's how we've, for whatever reason it may be, got into those positions, and our ligaments and our soft tissues have all adapted to the lengths to maintain that bad posture. And at some point in our past, that wouldn't have been a comfortable position that we would if we'd have adopted it. So it's very plastic. It takes a bit of time to get out of that feeling of comfort, but a good posture can be just as comfortable as a bad posture. The only difference is the good posture will be much better for your health and general functionality for the medium and long term. So hope that answers that one.
Yeah, brilliant. And I know that Mandy's watching because she's sent us a
any other
message.
Questions before I get into that one?
For the next game.
So we had a really good question about the phase 2 exercises in the membership exercise. I've just got it written down here, so I just wanted to cover it. I'm going to cover this very briefly here, but I'm actually going to shoot an additional video after this to answer this in a little bit more detail, put that on the membership site for you guys. So double check there later this afternoon because I'll go into a little bit more detail. But in essence, bear with me one moment. It was, should I continue doing the icing in phase 2 even if my back's not hurting, having just gone into it? And the answer to that is yes, please do continue the icing. Do it 2 or 3 times a day as you were doing it in phase 1, and I will explain why a little bit later on. That's pretty much it.
Okay, wonderful. All right.
You will get the full answer, but I want to shoot a special video on that one because I think it's worth explaining. It's a really good question.
Okay.
But short answer, for the rest of the day, please do your icing, and I'll get that video to you in the membership site later today.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
That's it for today.
Thanks for watching, everyone, guys. We'll be back again tomorrow at 1 p.m. If you've got any questions, again, you can ping those into us. Thanks for watching. Please share these if you find them useful with anyone else that might also find them useful. We'll have the topic up later today, early part of tomorrow for tomorrow's live, and we look forward to seeing you then. Have a fantastic day.
Thank you.